Hey guys. Well, Persona 3 Reload came out recently, and so I thought I'd take this opportunity to actually talk about the original Persona 3 or Persona 3 FES, which I believe stands for Festival. Also, I have to say, I love this intro. This intro is it's my life. It was funny actually because I had known about Persona, and I think a lot of people went into Persona because of Persona 5. And it's funny, I was at a friend's house and I saw this intro, and this is actually what got me into the game, because this is just so much style and so much cool things, and I had heard it recommended to me, but once I saw this at their place, I'm like, okay, I'm getting into this. And sure enough, Persona 3 out of at least 3 to 5 has been my favorite. It's so good, and I'm so happy too that Reload looks like a proper remake. There are like, I don't know, like every remake or remaster has been absolutely terrible, awful, but there are very few like things I can complain about this game, and it's missing expression is the most, right? All the dialogue seems to be mostly there. The fact they left the Yorumi or hermit mode route unmolested, basically. I think there's two intros actually. There's the Blue Moon intro, and then there's the rap intro, which is just scenes from like the characters doing stuff, and it's more like a E3-ish kind of vibe to it. But yeah, what I think the things that make Persona stand out so powerfully are things like its art style. Obviously, I mean, it's more obvious in 5, but even in this game, it's kind of like cool, the sound effects. I think the characters are definitely a huge driving part of the series. Out of like 3, 4, and 5, this is definitely my favorite and the first one I played. Because the story itself is also very, very well done and really interesting, and how it kind of wraps up at the end. I think it's really interesting how it kind of creates this, they have this school life dungeon crawling balance. So you have these two separate things happening, at the same time, and both of them are like equally interesting. It's not just the dungeon crawling part is in itself only interesting. It's also, having a social life, building your social links, all of the, taking place in the modern day. And I don't want to say it's Earthbound-esque, but the fact we take a normal mundane life and we turn it into a video game, I think is just such a cool way to do it and look at things. And it's so funny how, you build up your personal skills outside of school or whatever, and you bring all of those with you into the dungeon. So it's not just like you do in one world and then the other, but every activity feeds into the other one. So eventually, you're ready to go into the dungeons, which can be very repetitive. But yeah, this intro is also very interesting or weird or funny, because it's just the MC walking into the town, and Yukari is in her apartment, and she basically has her evoker to her head. And I think it's so funny they try to play it off as if we don't know that they're not real guns. It's very obvious it's not a real gun, or it's some other thing, right? But they were like, no man, she's really gonna shoot herself. But this scene, even when you know that, still doesn't make sense. This is just for shock value, because it's not the dark hour, so why is she putting it to her head? She has no reason to evoke her persona. This is just done to be like, oh my god, what's happening? This is crazy. New viewer, this is crazy. What's going on? Yeah, but I always thought this was kind of dumb. But it's cool. It sets the mood, for the game. I love the MC in this game. He's just like such a mid 2000s emo, and and of course, the music is also a huge part of Persona 3. It is so I would say, integral to the game itself. I think, yeah, actually, the one bad thing I would have to say about Reload is how they redid all the songs. And they're not bad in themselves, but I think the biggest offender was Mass Destruction, the main battle theme. In the original, it's baby, 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 baby. And in the new one, it's baby, 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 baby. And it's more clinical and more accurate with the lyrics. And it just, no. It's not good. It's not good. And like it made me like recoil. I was like, ew, what is this? And I didn't go into that song expecting that at all. I thought, oh, maybe the newest OST will like use like modern things or be more interesting, or have some good remixes. But no, I really prefer the originals. But yeah, I think if you listen to it for like 50 hours, you probably aren't going to care. But that's how these things roll. Also, I think it's really funny that in this opening cutscene, the MC is just like unfazed by blood, moon, and coffins everywhere. It's never explained. Like, we really don't know anything about the MC. I think his name is like Minato or Makoto or something, unofficially or officially. But he basically is just for us to fill in his shoes and just like go on this journey. And speaking of like normal things, the one thing I do love about Reload, I have to admit, is the friggin' commercial they have for it. They have a Timothy Chalamet looking guy who, is like going to high school, and everyone's like, oh, he's literally me. But the tone of the commercial was so 2000s edgecore. It was perfect. Oh, it was so funny. Oh my god. But yeah. The characters are a huge part of the story and the drive, I think, for Persona. But I think the story for me is better in 4 than better in 3 than it is in 4. In 4, the characters I think are the main focus, because they all focus on the shadows, on the Jungian shadows, which also brings us to the overall tone and lore of the game, which is very much rooted in like psychology and stuff. And it's very obviously the social studies professor, or the guy who talks and rants about demons and magic and Western magic, is obviously like one of the writers or the game directors who's like speaking to the player, a little bit of a fourth wall break where he talks about the lore that like kind of drives the game, which is also again very, very interesting and very cool. And there's oh my god, I almost called her Masato. What's her name? The redhead. There's Yukari, and it says redhead in the text because I don't know her name yet. No, she's my favorite. I can't. Mitsuru. Oh my god. Mitsuru. Okay. Yeah. No. Yeah, and the way the characters are written in this game too are very, I wouldn't say relatable, but they feel more real than other games. They're not like one-dimensional or even two-dimensional. They're like fully 3D characters. I think the most relatable moment in this entire game was when Junpei, he like forgot to study for exams, and he's like slacking off and whatever, and like the day before the exams, he's like yelling at himself saying, "Why are you so stupid? You should have studied." And I'm like, oh man, this is actually reminding me either of myself or people I actually know. It was a deep cut, as my friends call it. It was like, oh damn, I feel this. Yeah, I think the armbands are like super cool. They're very iconic, to at least, I'm not sure if they don't have the armbands in 4, do they? No, I think it's just 3 they have the armbands, and it's very cool. And of course the designs of the characters are good, and again, like, it's not only just upgrading your relationship with these characters and feel superficial, because like character growth and progression happen in a good script anyway, and so to have that be kind of a mechanic based on your decisions, it's also really, really cool that it, like, as I was saying earlier, your actions in the real mundane world affect the night world, and when you're actually doing your dungeon grinding or whatever. I think that's just so cool. And on that point, it's like the stereotype of what, you know, people saying, oh, the stereotype people who play this game is like, oh, I'm a real Japanese high school student, this is amazing. And I just think that's so funny to me, because like, how do I say this? This game actually did help me realize how important relationships are, in the sense that, like, you never know, like, in life, when people come back into your life, back into the world, and you know, you always want to treat people nicely, and you also want to take care of your current relationships, because that's literally like a power. And I actually took that away from this positively, and I was like, oh yeah, no, that kind of makes sense. You want to nurture your relationships, and they translate into power. And like, honestly, whenever I meet a new friend, or like, you know, spend time with someone, I would like think of the friggin' like thou art I and I art thou friggin' cutscene. it's like, bro, we need to deepen our social links so that we can use stronger powers. And as I was talking earlier a little bit on the esoterics of this game, it's obviously been grandfathered in from the early Persona games. That's a weird way of saying it, because I just feel like the art style hasn't changed. Like, the art style of the personas and the demons and whatnot it seems to be like not adapted to this game. Its art style has kind of been like stuck in whenever it was done in the early 90s or whenever Persona 1 came out. So it's very how do I say, it's like very almost cheesy fantasy, some of the Persona designs, but they're very interesting because the compendium of the demons is, or of the monsters, or personas rather, includes demons, like real demons, well, fictional demons. I mean, it depends on how you define fictional, but what I mean is there are demons based on books like the Goetia. I think there's only, I thought there was a lot more, but I actually did an analysis of it, and there's only 2 that are actually in this game. So not so many, but then they have things like, you know, Lucifer and Satan, I think, and they're just these crazy designs that are just like, oh, that's not based on anything. I think that's just based on the artist's interpretation of just whatever. Like, I think like Satan has like a big bat theme going on, and Lucifer is, I think, an angel actually, and there are angels, there's Gabriel and whatever, so there's a lot of Western style stuff. There's fairies, and I think there's also quite a few, of course, Japanese folklore things. I think there's actually the Norse god of fire, so there's some Norse gods. Is there Greek stuff? There has to be, you know, there's definitely Greek stuff in here, I'm sure. And so that kind of aspect of Persona kind of has always been a staple of the series, that they have these ancient things. And the way it actually works, which is cool, is that, you know, each persona is like an aspect of your psyche. So all these, you know, things are, you know, I mean, and that's what I also love about this game. It's very psychological, but each one of these things is like, they have a certain level, and the more you use them and upgrade them, they like learn new moves. It's funny though, because eventually they get like outstripped, or, you know, they're not useful anymore. The only way that you kind of upgrade your persona is honestly fusing them with other personas just to get a more powerful persona. And the end game is also pretty much like that, where you kind of have a collection or a handful of personas you get from drops, essentially, in a battle as cards or whatever, and you take those cards into the Velvet Room, and you combine them to get like the end game, like level 99, level 100, you know, specific persona. And oh yeah, and I forgot, you can only get like the top personas if you had maxed out the 10 levels of a certain social link. So, you know, and each social link is of course represented by a arcana from the tarot cards. So again, this whole thing is very like Western mysticism is like rampant in the Persona games, and it even comes through the social studies guy, which is really funny. But yeah, and so you kind of like, it's almost like, it's not exactly like Pokemon, but you capture these things, combine them, grow them, and turn them into more powerful things. And I was gonna say, it's funny because, like, well, who is the MC's persona? It's Orpheus, who has this giant harp thing and does fire magic. But like, you're gonna use Orpheus for like maybe 10% of the game, like, if that, and then you're gonna like never see him again because you're gonna get something like way powerful. Like, he's only level 5. And so it's kind of a weird thing because you can't have an official persona for the guy's character, except for one of the top level personas, which I think, because you also have the Fool card, which is your card, and the way it works is that as you go through like the chapters of the game, you automatically level up the social link of like yourself. And it's like, once you go through these trials and tribulations, you come to a newer truth about who you are and all that stuff. And so I think you automatically unlock the ability to create the other official persona, which is Thanatos, which is this giant like beak thing guy with like a row of coffins behind him. It's very, very cool looking. And I don't think he's the most powerful, actually, because I think all the optional, like one of the optional social link personas is probably the best, but it's still like definitely up there, like a level 90 or something. But yeah, no, it's also really fun to have these little dialogues, and the art is really, really nice in both versions of the game. It's also interesting because, of course, depending on what you say, you can max out your social links, or you'll like fail, or you can also max out your other skills, which are going to be like charisma, perception, smarts, and something else. And that will be a gating factor in some conversations. Like, you might know you have to talk to a girl and say, look, you need to leave your abusive house or your abusive household and go to the foster care center. And that's the right option to say, but when you click it, it says you don't have enough bravery to say it. Your bravery stat isn't high enough. And so it's a fun way of saying, oh shoot, I gotta do certain activities. And it's really smart, I think, that, I mean, other games are kind of unlearning this, but when you go into Persona 3, all of these mechanics and aspects that are just so much are like just slowly opened up to you. Like, they're not dumped on you all at once, which is like very, very, very smart. Because if it was all at once, I'd be overwhelmed. I wouldn't know what to do, and I'd feel like I was unoptimizing myself. Like, oh, I should have been doing this at the beginning of the game instead of doing this, and now I feel stupid. And then you do that and you realize, oh no, wait, the way I was doing it before was fine. So it's very smart how it railroads you. It says, okay, you're going to go after school, you have some time to hang around, and the next day, nope, you're not going to go after school, you have to go straight home. And so do this event that automatically levels up this ability and introduces you to how you can do this. And so for the first like month or whatever, you are basically kind of just almost learning the game. It's a very slow tutorial, but once you like get there, it doesn't feel that hard at all. Also, I love these little sprites. They're like, I don't know, perfectly sized. There's Akihiko. Also, the whole social club thing, it's good because it doesn't make you feel like you made the wrong decision. It makes you feel like you're like, it's fine, and you can always reload your last save, I guess, but that's a time waste. And again, of course, the main lobby theme is so good. The music in this game is it's such a mood, and the sound and everything. It's so good. I don't know how to say it. Like, I actually played a lot of this game standing up because the music was just so freaking good and just kind of jiving with it. It's so good, and I think it's better than the other Persona games too. So yeah, I don't know what to say. Oh yeah, that's the other thing. They had to hire different voice actors for Reload. So most of them are fine, but I feel like sorry, what did I call him? Akihiro's? Yeah, Akihiro's voice doesn't, it's just not the same. It's like fine, but it's I don't know, it's not as intense and as aggressive. I don't know. It's also, I love the interface too, how it shows the passing of the days and, you know, like afternoon, whatever. I also think it's weird and also interesting that at the halfway point of the game, the normal how do you call it, the normal day school theme, it changes to a completely different song. It feels very bittersweet because it's nice that they change it up, but honestly the songs again are so good that I didn't mind listening to the same song for the whole game. And so when they just suddenly change it just because it's like after midterms, you're just like, oh. And again, this is so funny, you have to do like midterms and like it's and study for them, and that whole week is like you don't even go to Tartarus, you just end up like studying day and night and choosing what to do. And I love how you have the anxiety of choosing, but it's not overwhelming. It's not like you're gonna fail and not be able to beat the game if you make like a bad decision. The one bad thing, I guess you could argue about this game is that some of the things are just not translatable at all. Like you're doing Japanese history and they're like, who, you know, united Japan under the Shogun era or something, and you're like, they give you the names and it's like, I have no idea. Like the translators were like, look man, you're just gonna have to know. And I don't know, it's funny. But yeah, no, the characters in this game are really good. I like Yukari, I definitely like Mitsuru. Junpei was a lot of fun. I didn't expect him to develop, but he's kind of like this goofball who really put himself together. That was kind of really nice to see. Then you have like in the late game you have Ken and the dog, and honestly, as I'm thinking, I really don't remember anything about Ken or the dog. I mean, Ken's a good character from what I remember from him, but I don't remember a lot of development from him. In fact, I remember a lot of development from Shinji, and well, if the spoilers, you know, like Shinji does not hang around that long, sadly, and he left more of an impact on me. I remember there's like one social link where like you take him to go see a movie and he ends up like getting, you know, he's one of these tough guys, but he ends up getting really teary-eyed at like the little puppy movie or something. He got really sad when they got swept away in the stream or something. And I don't know, that was just like, I enjoyed my time with Shinji. He was a cool character. And then that brings us to, I guess, the antagonist, the Heaven's Smile. I forget what the heck they're called. The Salvation Army. I don't remember. I don't remember. But they're basically like, oh, nihilism. I want the world to end. And I think it's very appropriate that they identified the main reason that, or the main antagonist of the game is actually nihilism itself. I think that was such a cool idea. But I may talk about the ending later, or now. I mean, I guess the ending is absolute, just like it's Ludo Kino. And I say that because not only are you finding the embodiment of nihilism itself, and it's kind of like all the things you've learned, all the relationships you've made, what it means to be alive and defeat the nothingness. It's such a powerful, interesting idea. And it's through belief in your relationships that ends up winning the day and giving you the strength to defeat, you know, this ultimate evil, which is, it's not even evil, it's just like the absence of everything. It's like the absence of life. And it's incredibly like chef's kiss Ludo when you look at the Great Seal. And that's the other thing too, you can never destroy it, you can just seal it away. When you look at the Great Seal to defeat the ultimate evil or seal it away, you know, you have two types of magic attacks. You have skill attacks that take HP and magic attacks that take SP or something. I actually don't remember. But the final Great Seal is an HP attack, and it takes all of your health to destroy it. And oh my god, I can't tell you how cool that is. And it's very, I guess, Christian in that sense. Like it's a very, I guess, Christian game, despite the fact you can summon Lucifer and Satan to assist you in this battle. But it's amazing because it's this ultimate sacrifice that saves the planet. And I think it's after that it shows like the MC is like kind of still alive, or they still have a memory of him, but then it's kind of left kind of ambiguous, and then it shows him like lying on the top of the building with Aigis, and it says, you can close your eyes or something. It's so good. The ending is so good. It's amazing. I love it. Which brings me to Aigis, I guess. That's another other character, and Akihiko. I also love Akihiko. He was fun. He was cool. Aigis, I don't dislike her, but I'm aware that the fandom really, really, really likes her, and I literally don't understand why. Like, I get she's a robot trying to be human, and that's like a cute thing or whatever, but I just never really connected with her character. She's like, okay, you're trying to be human, you do your best. I'd say comparatively, it's far more interesting, like Fuka and Elizabeth. I love Elizabeth in terms of the trying to normalize herself, because she's way funnier. She's literally from an old school ancient dimension or whatever, so it's like all of her mannerisms are old school. And yeah, Igor in the Velvet Room, that whole thing is, I think it's really interesting because in Persona 4, it's a limo. So I'd like to, and in this game, it's like an express elevator. I think that's really, really cool. But at the same time, I'm trying to think of like how that reflects on either the MC or what Persona 3 is. Why an elevator instead of a limo in 4? And it's always like you're going towards your destination. I think that's always a cool thing. And of course, when you reach the top, you get off at your stop when you're ready to fight the final boss and do what you gotta do. I guess the one thing that needs not be said is that these games are just very, very long. Like, they're 60-hour games. Like, anything over 30 hours to me is really pushing it. So you have like a full day is 24 hours, but a half day is 12 hours. And if it's a weekday, then really at most you have 6 hours to play. So a 30-hour game will basically last you a whole week if you do nothing but just play that game. But a 60-hour game would be 2 weeks? I don't know. That for me, no, that sounds about right. It took me, I don't know, it felt like it took me like a month to beat this game. Maybe I must have been doing other stuff then, I guess. But yeah, no, it's cool though. I'd say though, despite the length, it's very, very worth it. 4 also pretty good. I shouldn't talk about other games when I'm talking about this game. And I actually have not finished 5 yet, so it's something I gotta get around to. I also think it's very cool that the phase of the moon will determine when, the next boss is. I thought that's just so cool. It's like, yeah, the phases of the moon are like part of a gameplay mechanic, almost. Tartarus itself was interesting / frustrating. I love the sound effects. I love picking up those little boxes of cash and stuff. I also really enjoy the fact that like in the later levels or something, or I think even at the beginning, you can change the in-game music of the dungeon because like it's supposed to be super repetitive and like auto-generated, but like auto-generated a la 2004 whenever this game came out. So it's I don't know, it's really funny / interesting that they're aware of the grindy aspect and they put in like a mechanic to like change the music to super funky stuff to get you through it. But yeah, no, it's so interesting how you have the duality of like, you know, the normal world and the Tartarus world, and you feel the tension building as you get closer and closer to like the final boss. The sound design, the graphics, the art style, everything in this game is just, it's beautiful. It's so well done. And the characters are great. Gameplay. Oh yeah, actually I haven't talked about the real gameplay, since most of the gameplay is running around and choosing what to do. But the actual infighting gameplay is, I forgot this. In Reload, you can control your characters, and in this one you can't. And for some reason, I mean, I guess RPGs traditionally, even the first Final Fantasy, you could always control your party members. So when Persona 3 said, well, you can't, I guess that was like, oh, this is a improvement, I suppose. But I was talking to someone about it recently, and they said, oh yeah, you can't control your party members. And I was like, oh right, I forgot. As if it never really affected me. Like, yes, you were depending on your other party members to do the right thing. And it's like, even if they didn't, it was like, whatever. But it was never a huge deal for the fact that I didn't really remember that. Also, I just gotta love the character designs for the enemies. You have like the friggin' you have like tables, you have slimes and shadows. It's funny how shadows wouldn't be a thing until really Persona 4 is the main focus of the game. But you also had things like oh god, the spinning wheels and the statues. And you know, I know RPGs or JRPGs are like turn-based combat is whatever, but the flow of the battle, the fact I think you have an auto resolve button in this game, or an auto attack rather, you know, the fact that with the music along with the sound effects of the buttons themselves and like being strategic, I don't know, in terms of turn-based combat, this is some of the best I think I've ever played. It feels fluid, it feels good, it feels fun. But yeah, no, I love this game so much, and it seems like Reload is a very faithful remake in terms of lighting and even dialogue, and like there's like one or two things missing, but it's like mostly the same, plus with some extra stuff. I think they also removed something like weird, like certain clubs or something. It's also a very replayable game because there's just no way, it's not built for you in any way, shape, or form to do every single social link of every side character. Like, you actually have to choose, because at most you could do a third to maybe a half of all the social links if you just get everything correct. So that like encourages you to do other playthroughs and find out, oh well, what about this character? And it's pretty annoying, I guess, if you like get to level 9 and you never actually finish that one, because you only get their full story until you do like level 10, obviously. So it's like, don't start when you can't stop. But yeah, it's a great game, and I'm so happy that like people can basically relive or re-experience it with Reload without having a crappy, bad version of it. I guess the only thing I'll like round off on is when this game came out, it was very, very controversial, but like for the time, because you had teenagers putting guns to their heads and pulling the trigger. And like, it wasn't a huge media thing, but there was always like, there was that conversation where like parents like would talk to their kids like, son, I realize that you're playing this game, and I just don't want you having dark thoughts as the dark hour approaches. And but it was funny, right? Because parents, they don't understand video games, right? But so they just see that and they just have to like assume the worst case scenario and just give like the talk. And I think that happened a lot more than people understand, and it amuses me a lot that was the case. But yeah, one of my favorite games, definitely one of my favorite RPGs, absolute classic, love it. And has a dark atmosphere. It's great. Can't recommend it enough. See you guys later.